Hi, I'm Madison. I thought family meant everything, until they proved I meant nothing. You know that feeling when your world just shifts? Like everything you believed about the people closest to you suddenly becomes a lie? Yeah, that's exactly what happened to me 3 months ago. And it all started with what my dad called just a reunion. Picture this. I'm sitting in my apartment after a brutal 12-hour shift at the hospital. I'm a nurse in the ICU, so my days are pretty intense. When my phone rings, Dad's name pops up on the screen, and honestly, I almost don't answer. We don't talk much unless someone needs something, which should have been my first red flag. "Hey, Madison, honey," he says in that overly cheerful voice he uses when he wants something. "Listen, we're having a little family reunion this weekend. Nothing fancy, just the immediate family getting together. You know how it is." I'm already mentally calculating if I can switch shifts. Family time has always been complicated for me, but I try. I really do. "Oh, okay. What time should I be there? Should I bring anything?" There's this pause. This weird, uncomfortable pause that makes my stomach drop. "Actually, sweetie, it's going to be pretty small. Just the core family, you know. We figured you're so busy with work and everything." And there it was. That familiar sting, the gentle exclusion wrapped up in concern for my schedule. I've heard this song before, but somehow I always hope the lyrics will change. "Right," I say, trying to keep my voice steady. "Of course, no problem. We'll catch up soon, though. Maybe we can do dinner next week or something." "Sure, Dad. Next week, just like last time, and the time before that." Have you ever been excluded by family? Keep watching, because what happened next changed everything I thought I knew about the people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. After I hung up, I just sat there staring at my phone. There was this knot in my stomach that I couldn't shake. Something felt off about the whole thing, but I couldn't put my finger on it. My family has this way of making me feel like I'm overreacting, like I'm being too sensitive. So I did what I always do. I pushed the feeling down and told myself it was fine. But Friday night, when I was scrolling through Instagram before bed, everything changed. There it was, plain as day. A post from my brother Jake's girlfriend, Emma. A picture of the most elaborate engagement party I'd ever seen. String lights everywhere. A professional photographer, about 50 people in fancy clothes, and right there in the center, my entire family. Mom, Dad, Jake beaming with his arm around Emma, showing off this gorgeous ring. And the caption? "Surrounded by all our loved ones as we celebrate our engagement. So grateful for family." My heart literally stopped. I'm not being dramatic. I actually felt it skip a beat. This wasn't a little family reunion. This was Jake's engagement party. My brother got engaged, and not only was I not invited, but they lied to me about what it was. I screenshotted that post so fast my fingers were shaking. Then I started scrolling through the other photos. There was my cousin Sarah, who I text with regularly. There was my Aunt Linda, who always tells me I'm her favorite niece. There was literally every single person in our family except me. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was scrolling back through the past few weeks and seeing all the planning posts I'd somehow missed. Emma posting about engagement party planning stress with laughing emojis. My mom commenting "can't wait" on venue photos. Jake sharing posts about the perfect proposal and how he can't wait to celebrate with family. I felt like I was watching my life from outside my body. How had I missed this? How had an entire engagement and party been planned around me without me knowing? And then it hit me. I hadn't missed it. I'd been deliberately excluded from it. My phone buzzed with a text from my mom. "Hope you had a good day at work, honey. We missed you at the family thing tonight." The family thing. They were still lying. Even after it was over, they were still pretending it was just some casual get-together. I stared at that text for probably 10 minutes, my hands literally shaking with a mix of hurt and rage I'd never felt before. That's when I made a decision that would change everything. Instead of confronting them, instead of crying or getting angry or doing any of the things they probably expected, I opened up our family group chat. You know, the one called the Johnson family, with all the hearts and emojis that makes us look like we're so close and loving. I scrolled back through 3 months of messages. 3 months of family dinner Sunday. Don't forget Dad's birthday. Who's bringing what to the barbecue? And not a single mention of Jake's engagement or any party planning. But here's what really got me. I could see that people had been removed from and added back to the chat. The member count kept changing. They had a separate planning chat. They planned my brother's engagement party in a group chat that specifically excluded me, then acted like nothing happened. I took screenshots of everything, every post, every comment, every gap in our family chat where I could see messages were missing. I don't know why I did it, some instinct for self-preservation maybe. But I'm so glad I did, because when I finally confronted them the next morning, the gaslighting was immediate and intense. "Madison, honey, you're being so dramatic," Mom said when I called her. "It was last minute. We didn't think you'd want to come anyway. You're always so busy." "Mom, Emma posted planning photos for weeks. This wasn't last minute." "Well, you know how social media is. People exaggerate everything." "There were 50 people there, Mom. Aunt Linda flew in from Colorado. That's not exaggerating." "I don't know why you're getting so upset about this. It's not like we planned to hurt you." And there it was, the classic non-apology. Not, "We're sorry we excluded you," but, "We're sorry you're upset about being excluded." Not, "We made a mistake," but, "You're overreacting to our perfectly reasonable decision." I tried calling Jake next, my little brother, who I helped through high school algebra, who I lent money to for his first car, who came to me when he was too scared to tell our parents he wanted to drop out of college. "Look, Madison, I wanted you there, okay?" But it was Emma's family and our family, and it was already getting too big, and you know how Mom gets about these things. "Jake, I'm your sister. I've been there for every important moment in your life." I know. But you have to understand, it's complicated. You know how you and Mom sometimes don't get along, and Emma's family is really traditional, and we just wanted everything to be perfect. Perfect. Their perfect family moment didn't include me. Got it. But you know what? As much as it hurt, and God, it hurt so badly I could barely breathe, there was also this weird sense of clarity. For the first time in my life, I could see the pattern clearly. This wasn't the first time I'd been excluded. This was just the first time I had photographic evidence they couldn't deny. I thought about my high school graduation party that got canceled, but somehow still happened without me. I thought about the family vacation to the lake house that I couldn't afford, but they somehow found money for everyone else. I thought about Christmas mornings where I felt like an outsider in my own family, watching everyone exchange inside jokes and shared memories that I wasn't part of. I'd always blamed myself. I was too busy with school, too focused on my career, too serious, too sensitive. I was the problem. But sitting there with a phone full of evidence, I realized something that changed everything. I wasn't the problem. I was the scapegoat. So instead of spending my weekend crying or trying to figure out how to fix things with my family, I did something completely different. I booked a ski trip. I know. It sounds crazy. Your family excludes you from your brother's engagement party, and your response is to go skiing. But here's the thing. I'd been wanting to try skiing for years. Every winter, I'd look at those gorgeous mountain photos on Instagram and think someday. But there was always something. Work, or family obligations, or just the feeling that I shouldn't spend money on myself when there was always some family crisis that needed my attention. Well, guess what? There was no family crisis this time. There was just me, finally free to do something I actually wanted to do. So I found a last-minute deal to Aspen, booked a cute little cabin, and decided to give myself the weekend I deserved. And let me tell you, driving up those mountain roads, watching the landscape change from brown winter plains to snow-covered peaks, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Actual, honest-to-God freedom. No family drama, no walking on eggshells, no trying to figure out what I'd done wrong this time. Just me, some really good music, and the open road. The skiing was amazing, by the way. I was terrible at it. I spent more time on my butt than on my feet. but I was laughing so hard I could barely breathe. When was the last time I'd laughed like that? When was the last time I'd done something purely for joy, without worrying about what anyone else thought? Saturday evening, I was sitting on the deck of this little mountain restaurant, watching the sunset paint the snow pink and gold, when I decided to take a selfie. Not because I wanted to make anyone jealous, not because I was trying to prove anything, but because I looked happy. Genuinely, radiantly happy. My cheeks were red from the cold, my hair was a mess from the ski helmet, and I had this huge grin that I barely recognized as my own. I posted it with the caption, "Sometimes the best family time is the time you spend with yourself. First ski weekend and definitely not the last." I wasn't thinking about my family when I posted it. I wasn't trying to send a message or make a point. I was just sharing a moment of pure happiness, the way people do on social media. But apparently, happiness isn't something I'm allowed to have when my family is celebrating without me. My phone started buzzing around 8 p.m. First, it was a text from my mom. "Really, Madison? Today of all days?" Then Jake, "Can you please just delete that post? You're ruining everything." Then my dad, "This is incredibly selfish, even for you. Even for me." Like being excluded from my brother's engagement party wasn't selfish, but posting a picture of myself having fun was. But the messages kept coming. Aunt Linda, who had been perfectly happy to attend the party I wasn't invited to, now had opinions about my inappropriate timing. Cousin Sarah, who had liked every single engagement party photo, was suddenly concerned about my attention-seeking behavior. 47 missed calls, 82 text messages, all because I posted a picture of myself smiling. That's when it hit me. They weren't angry because I looked happy. They were angry because I looked happy without them, because their carefully constructed narrative that I was too busy, too antisocial, too whatever to be included, fell apart the moment I showed that I was perfectly capable of having a good time on my own. They needed me to be sad. They needed me to be sitting at home, feeling sorry for myself, maybe sending them guilt texts about how much I missed them. They needed me to be the problem, the one who was always too something to fit in. But here I was, looking happier than I had in years, doing something I'd always wanted to do, proving that maybe the problem wasn't me after all. But what I discovered next changed everything about our family. Because as I sat there in that mountain cabin, reading message after message about how selfish and inappropriate I was being, I started to wonder, what else had they lied about? What other family moments had I been excluded from? And most importantly, why were they so desperate to keep me on the outside? I was about to find out, and trust me, the truth was so much worse than I could have imagined. The next morning, sitting in that mountain cabin with my coffee and the most incredible view I'd ever seen, I made a decision that would change everything. Instead of letting their guilt trip work, instead of deleting my post and apologizing for the crime of being happy, I was going to find out exactly what had been happening behind my back. I started with the family group chat. You know how group messages work. When you scroll back far enough, you can see when people were added or removed. And what I found made my blood run cold. Over the past 6 months, I had been removed and re-added to our family chat 17 times. 17 times. They had conversations without me, then added me back like nothing happened. But here's where it gets really twisted. I could see the exact timestamps. I was removed right before conversations about family events, then added back afterward for casual stuff like, "Hope everyone has a good week," and birthday reminders. They had turned excluding me into a science. I screenshot every single gap, every time the member count changed, every suspicious jump in message timestamps. Then I started going through my email. See, my mom has this habit of forwarding family photos to everyone, and Gmail keeps everything forever. What I found in my email history was a masterclass in systematic exclusion. 3 years of family gatherings I didn't even know happened. Dad's surprise 60th birthday party. You know, the one where they told me he didn't want a big celebration? Yeah, there were 40 people there. Mom's retirement celebration that was supposedly just dinner, but actually involved renting out an entire restaurant. Jake's college graduation party that I missed because I was working, but somehow they forgot to mention it was happening at all. Every single major family milestone for 3 years, and I had been deliberately excluded from all of them. But here's the really sick part. They documented everything. Every email had the same pattern. Don't forget to take lots of pictures for Madison. And we'll have to do something special with just Madison later. Except later never came. There was never a special dinner, never a separate celebration. Just empty promises to make themselves feel better about excluding me while keeping me just involved enough to maintain the illusion of being family. I was taking screenshots of everything when my phone rang. Cousin Sarah. The same Sarah who had been at Jake's engagement party. The same Sarah who had been conspicuously quiet during yesterday's family explosion. "Madison, honey, we need to talk," she said, and I could hear something different in her voice. Guilt, maybe. Do we? Because last I checked, you were perfectly fine watching me get excluded from family events. That's what I'm calling about. Listen, can we meet somewhere? Like in person? There are things you need to know, and I can't say them over the phone. Something in her tone made me pause. Sarah and I had always been close growing up. She was the one cousin who never made me feel weird for being serious about school, never rolled her eyes when I talked about my career goals. If she was reaching out now, it had to be important. "I'm actually out of town until Tuesday," I said, not ready to cut my ski trip short for more family drama. "Then Tuesday. Please, Madison. There's so much you don't know." When I met Sarah at a little coffee shop downtown that Tuesday, she looked like she hadn't slept in days. The moment she saw me, she started crying. "I should have called you," she said before I could even sit down. "I should have told you about the engagement party. I should have told you about everything." "Sarah, what are you talking about?" "The family meetings, Madison. They've been having family meetings about you for over a year." I felt the ground shift beneath me. "Family meetings about me?" "Your parents called them intervention planning sessions. They said you were becoming too independent, too successful, and it was making everyone else feel bad. Your mom said you were showing off with your career and your apartment and your car, and that it was causing problems in the family." I stared at her. My success was causing problems? "They said you were making Jake feel inferior because you had your life together and he was still figuring things out. They said you were making your mom feel like a failure because you achieved more than she did. They said your dad felt like you didn't need the family anymore. So why should the family include you?" The coffee shop felt like it was spinning. "So they decided to—" "What? Exclude me until I became a failure?" "They called it natural consequences. They said if you wanted to act like you were too good for the family, then you could see what life was like without family support. They thought you'd come crawling back, begging to be included, and then they could set terms for your reintegration." I couldn't breathe, literally could not get air into my lungs. "Sarah, are you telling me that my entire family has been systematically excluding me for over a year as some kind of punishment for being successful?" "Madison, it's worse than that." She pulled out her phone. I recorded the last meeting. She did what now? I started recording them after the third meeting because what they were saying was so horrible, and I thought maybe if they could hear themselves— She trailed off. "Do you want to hear it? Did I want to hear my family planning my emotional destruction? Not really, but did I need to? Absolutely." She hit play, and I heard my father's voice. "Madison needs to learn that family comes first. She's gotten too comfortable thinking she can just live her life without considering how it affects the rest of us." Then my mother. "She makes Jake feel terrible about himself. Here he is, struggling to find his path, and she's posting pictures of her promotions and her new car and her fancy apartment. It's cruel." "The engagement party is the perfect opportunity," Dad continued. "We'll see if she even notices she wasn't invited. If she doesn't say anything, we'll know she doesn't really care about family. If she does say something, we'll know she still wants to be included, and we can set some boundaries." My mother again. "She needs to understand that success without family support is meaningless. Maybe if she sees what she's missing, she'll be more grateful for what we do for her." Jake's voice was quieter. "I don't know, guys. This feels wrong. She's been good to us. Remember when she helped me pay for my car? And she's always been supportive of my relationship with Emma. That's exactly the problem, Mom replied. She acts like she's our parent instead of our daughter. She needs to learn her place. The recording went on for 23 minutes. 23 minutes of my family discussing me like I was a misbehaving child who needed to be taught a lesson. 23 minutes of them analyzing my every action, interpreting my success as a personal attack on them, and plotting ways to put me back in my place. By the time it ended, I was sobbing so hard I could barely see. Sarah was crying too. Madison, there's more. The engagement party wasn't just about excluding you. It was a test. They wanted to see if you'd fight for your place in the family or if you'd just fade away. Your ski post yesterday? It broke their entire narrative. They expected you to be devastated, maybe to call them crying and begging to be included. Instead, you posted pictures of yourself having the time of your life. So they're angry because their emotional manipulation didn't work. They're panicking because they realized they might have miscalculated. See, they need you, Madison. Financially, emotionally, practically. They need you way more than you need them. But they thought they could control you by threatening to take family away. They never considered that maybe family wasn't the gift they thought it was. I sat there for a long time, processing everything. My entire family had been playing psychological games with me for over a year. They had analyzed my happiness, pathologized my success, and decided that the solution was to slowly exclude me until I begged to be included on their terms. But here's what they hadn't counted on. I was actually better without them. Sarah, I need to ask you something. Why are you telling me this now? She looked down at her hands. Because Jake's getting married in 6 months, and they're planning to exclude you from the wedding, too. They're going to tell you it's a small ceremony, just immediate family, but they're planning a 200-person celebration. And I can't watch them do this to you anymore. The wedding. Of course. The final test, the ultimate punishment. Exclude me from my own brother's wedding to prove once and for all that I wasn't really family. There's something else, Sarah continued. The engagement ring? The one Jake proposed with? I know you lent him money for it. How do you know that? Because he told Emma's family that his sister helped him buy it. He was proud of you, Madison. He bragged about how generous and supportive you were. But then your parents made him promise not to mention it at the engagement party because it would make Madison look too involved in their relationship. So not only had they excluded me from celebrating an engagement I had helped make possible, but they had also made Jake hide my contribution. They had literally erased me from my own generosity. That's when I knew what I had to do. 2 weeks later, Jake called me. Hey, Madison, we're having a little family dinner Sunday, to make up for the whole reunion thing. Emma really wants to meet you properly. There it was. The olive branch, the fake reconciliation dinner where they would graciously allow me back into the family fold, probably with some new rules about how I needed to be more considerate of other people's feelings. Sure, Jake. What time? 6 o'clock, at Romano's. The same restaurant where we celebrated every major family milestone, where I had countless memories of feeling like an outsider at my own family table. But this time was going to be different. This time, I was walking in with the truth. Sunday evening, I dressed carefully. Not too fancy, didn't want to trigger their whole, she thinks she's better than us narrative. But professional and put together. I brought a purse large enough to hold my tablet because I was going to need it. When I walked into Romano's, they were all there. Mom, Dad, Jake, Emma, and interestingly, several family friends and extended relatives. Not exactly the intimate dinner they had described, but I was learning not to be surprised by their lies anymore. Jake stood up and hugged me, and for a moment, I could see the brother I used to know, the one who came to me when he was scared, who trusted me with his secrets, who used to tell me I was his favorite person in the world. Madison, I'm so glad you came, he said, and I could hear the relief in his voice. Emma, this is my sister Madison. Madison, this is Emma. Emma was lovely, actually. Sweet and genuine and clearly uncomfortable with whatever family politics she'd been dragged into. She hugged me warmly and said, I've heard so much about you. Jake talks about you all the time. We sat down, and for the first few minutes, everything seemed normal. Dad was being charming. Mom was asking about work. Jake was excited about wedding planning. It was almost like old times, except for the weight of knowledge sitting in my chest like a stone. Then Jake stood up with his wine glass. "I just wanted to say something," he began, and I knew this was it. This was their moment to rewrite history, to paint themselves as the loving family who was graciously welcoming back their difficult daughter. "Family is everything," Jake said, looking around the table. "And I know we haven't always been perfect, but what matters is that we're here now, together, supporting each other. Emma and I are so grateful to have such a strong, united family as we start this new chapter. Strong, united family. The same family that had spent a year plotting my exclusion. The same family that had turned my success into a character flaw. The same family that had recorded conversations about putting me back in my place." That's when I stood up. "That's beautiful, Jake," I said, pulling out my tablet. "And since we're talking about family and support, I thought this would be a good time to share some things I've discovered about our family dynamics." The table went dead silent. I could see the panic in my parents' eyes, the confusion on Emma's face, the dawning horror on Jake's. "See, I've been doing some research into our family history over the past few years. You know, trying to understand some patterns I'd noticed." I opened up my tablet and turned it so everyone could see. "For instance, this is our family group chat from the past 6 months. Notice anything interesting about the member count?" I scrolled through, showing the timestamps where I'd been removed and re-added. 17 times I was taken out of family conversations and added back later. 17 times you all had family discussions without me, then pretended nothing happened. Mom tried to interrupt. "Madison, honey, this isn't the place." "Oh, but it is the place, Mom. Because this is where we celebrate family milestones, right? Like Dad's 60th birthday party that I wasn't invited to. Or your retirement party that I missed because you told me it was just dinner. Or Jake's college graduation celebration that somehow never made it onto my calendar." I was scrolling through screenshots now, showing email after email documenting 3 years of exclusion. The table was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. "But here's the really interesting part," I continued, finding the audio file Sarah had given me. "This is a recording of one of your family meetings. You know, the ones where you discuss me like I'm a problem that needs to be solved." I hit play, and my father's voice filled the restaurant. "Madison needs to learn that family comes first. She's gotten too comfortable thinking she can just live her life without considering how it affects the rest of us." Emma gasped. Jake went pale. Several of the family friends looked absolutely horrified. The recording continued, and I watched my family's faces as their own words played back to them. Mom talking about putting me back in my place. Dad discussing how to use the engagement party as a test. Jake weakly defending me while still going along with their plan. When it ended, the silence was deafening. "So, just to be clear," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "You've spent over a year systematically excluding me from family events, not because I'd done anything wrong, but because my success made you uncomfortable. You turned my achievements into character flaws, my independence into selfishness, and my happiness into a personal attack on your feelings." Dad tried to recover. "Madison, you're taking this all out of context." "Am I? Because I also have these." I pulled out printed copies of every email, every screenshot, every piece of evidence I'd collected. 3 years of documentation showing a pattern of deliberate exclusion followed by gaslighting. 3 years of you telling me I was being too sensitive while you were actively plotting against me. Emma looked like she was going to be sick. "Jake, is this true? Did you all really exclude Madison from your engagement party on purpose?" Jake couldn't look at her, or at me. "Emma, it's complicated." "It's not complicated," I said. "It's actually very simple. They wanted to punish me for being successful, and they thought the best way to do that was to slowly remove me from the family until I begged to be let back in on their terms." I turned to Jake. "And the engagement ring, Jake? Want to tell Emma about the engagement ring?" His face crumpled. "Madison, please." "I lent Jake $4,000 for your engagement ring, Emma," I said gently. "He called me crying because he'd found the perfect ring but couldn't afford it, and I transferred the money that same day. But at your engagement party, the one I wasn't invited to, He wasn't allowed to mention that I'd helped make the proposal possible. Emma turned to stare at Jake. You told my parents your sister helped you buy my ring. You said she was the most generous person you knew, but she wasn't even at our party? Emma, I wanted her there, I swear, but Mom and Dad said— What your parents said, I interrupted, was that my success was making you feel inferior, and that excluding me from family events was a way to teach me a lesson about putting family first. Except here's the thing. I was putting family first. I've been putting family first my entire adult life. I've lent money I couldn't afford, missed opportunities for my career, canceled plans with friends, all to be available for family. And you rewarded that loyalty by turning it into a weapon against me. The restaurant was dead silent. Other diners were trying not to stare, but the tension at our table was impossible to ignore. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. Jake, I love you, and I want you to be happy. If you want me in your life, you're going to have to decide what kind of relationship you want to have with me, independent of what Mom and Dad want. Emma, you seem lovely, and I hope Jake treats you better than this family has treated me. I turned to my parents. As for you two, I'm done. I'm done pretending that your love is conditional on my failure. I'm done walking on eggshells around your insecurities. I'm done letting you gaslight me into thinking I'm the problem when you're the ones who turned family into a competition. I stood up and gathered my things. The ski trip you were so angry about? That was the happiest I'd been in years. And you know why? Because for 48 hours, I got to be myself without worrying about how it affected your feelings. I got to succeed without being punished for it. I got to be happy without having to hide it. I pulled out my phone and showed them my ski selfie, the one that had caused so much outrage. This picture broke your entire plan, didn't it? You expected me to be devastated by the engagement party exclusion. You expected me to come crawling back, begging to be included. Instead, I posted a picture of myself thriving without you, and it scared you. Because deep down, you know that I don't actually need you. You need me. I looked around the table one last time. I'm not disappearing from the family because you're kicking me out. I'm choosing to step away because I finally understand that I deserve better than people who love me conditionally. Jake, if you want a relationship with your sister, you know how to reach me. Everyone else, enjoy your strong, united family dinner. And with that, I walked out of Romano's and into the best decision I'd ever made. 3 months later, I'm writing this from my apartment. The same apartment that apparently made my family feel inferior. I've gotten 2 promotions at work, planned another ski trip, and started dating someone who thinks my success is attractive, not threatening. Jake and I text sometimes. He's in therapy, working through his own relationship with our parents. Emma broke up with him 2 weeks after the dinner, saying she couldn't marry into a family that treated each other that way. Honestly, I think she dodged a bullet. My parents have tried to reach out twice, both times to tell me how much I've hurt them and damaged the family. Not to apologize, not to acknowledge what they did, but to make me responsible for their feelings about the consequences of their actions. Sarah and I are closer than ever. She's become the family I choose, the person who supports my success instead of resenting it. She told me that Christmas at my parents' house was awkward and depressing without me there, and that several relatives have asked why I wasn't included in family events anymore. But here's the thing that's taken me 3 months to fully understand. I'm not the family scapegoat anymore. I'm not the problem child, the difficult daughter, the one who needs to be managed and controlled. I'm just Madison, a successful nurse, a good friend, a woman who refuses to make herself smaller to accommodate other people's insecurities. That ski selfie is still on my Instagram, and I look at it sometimes when I need to remember who I am. When I'm not trying to be who my family wants me to be, I'm planning to make it an annual tradition, a solo trip on important family holidays, a reminder that my happiness doesn't depend on their approval. If you've made it this far in my story, I want you to know something. If your family makes you feel like you have to choose between being yourself and being loved, that's not really love. Real family, whether it's blood or chosen, celebrates your success, supports your dreams, and loves you for exactly who you are. Have you ever been the family scapegoat? Or excluded from events you deserved to attend? Share your story in the comments. I read every single one, and I believe you. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop fighting for a seat at a table where you're not truly welcome and build your own table instead.